We want Kenya to succeed. And the only way Kenya is going to succeed is if the country comes together. There's an end to the as I think everybody knows, my father was from Kenya and was part of that generation that first benefited from the movement towards independence. My father in 1960 got a scholarship to travel to the United States. So there was a movement towards independence that hadn't yet been achieved. But when he returned, Kenya was a country full of promise, and I think so many people had great hopes for the possibilities of Kenyan prosperity. It's been a bumpy road over these last 47 years. The most important message I have for the Kenyan people today is that they have to participate in this referendum process, that they have to get educated, they have to get involved, they have to look at all the issues involved, because this is a singular opportunity to put Kenyan governance on a more solid footing that can move beyond ethnic violence, can move beyond corruption, can move the country towards a path of economic prosperity. And so I hope that everybody participates, everybody takes advantage of this moment. Well, I'm openly supporting the process. I'm not openly supporting the result. I think it's up to the Kenyan people to make a decision about the direction of their country. But as a great friend of Kenya and as President of the United States, I am hoping that the Kenyan people, through a process of self-determination, are able to take advantage of this moment. I don't think it's any secret for most of your viewers and most people I talk to from Kenya, including my family members, that there's been frustration over the years of the constant corruption that is preventing full economic development in a country that is blessed by incredible potential wealth. I think people are frustrated by the continuing ethnic rivalries that exist in Kenya, when I think we all know that a country only succeeds when it pulls together. I think people are frustrated in terms of the continuing areas when it comes to rule of law or how the police operate or what have you, that things are not as transparent and as accountable to the people as it should be. And so this is an opportunity to fix many of those things. It's not going to be a silver bullet, but it's going to move us in the right direction. And we saw what happened in the last election, the dangers that exist if these problems are allowed to continually fester. And I give both Odinga and Kibaki credit for having seen the process through up until this point. They're saying the right things, and I hope that the Kenyan people take it to heart. And those who would try to undermine this process, I think, are making a big mistake. Well, I'm positive that before my service as president is completed, I will visit Kenya again as president of the United States. Right now, I've got so many issues that we're dealing with, including the global economy that's still very much weakened. We have an oil spill here in the United States that has to be attended to, that it's going to be difficult for me to travel, even though I'd love to go to the World Cup. Joe Biden's the guy who's lucky enough to get to go to South Africa, and so he's going to stop in Kenya along the way. But Joe Biden, his presence as my top emissary is the same one that I'm expressing today. We want Kenya to succeed. And the only way Kenya is going to succeed is if the country comes together. There's an end to the ethnic strife that has plagued so much of Africa and Kenya, that there's an end to the corruption that is making it more difficult for the country to develop. And then I think the possibilities are endless. You think about the agricultural strength of Kenya if it's properly cultivated. I always brag to my friends that Kenyans are as smart as any people in the world, but the economy is not always organized to take advantage of all that brain power that's in Kenya. I think making sure that human rights are observed, that women's rights are observed, that freedom of the press continues to be fostered in Kenya. All those things are critical to the future of young Kenyan children. Development in rural areas, making sure that money is not just in government bureaucracies, but is getting out actually to reach people. All those things are possible, but you have to have a government that's accountable, and you have to have a constitution that underwrites these basic principles. And this is a singular opportunity for Kenyans to achieve that. But regardless of what people think about this draft, whether they vote yes or vote no, I just want to make sure that they participate. Part of what makes America unique is we've always been a magnet for people from all around the world. And so that's how you can end up with somebody who looks like me named Barack Obama as the president, because we have a tradition of embracing immigration and people from different cultures. But it has to be legal. It has to be done properly. And when you look at whether it's African immigrants or immigrants from Asia, from Mexico, I think that people just, as you say, are in search of a better life. But it's not fair for a young African to come here saying they're going to study, and then they end up overstaying their visa, when you've got a lot of Africans back home who are patiently waiting in line and going through the process and perhaps waiting years to apply for a green card. And so we want to make sure that people aren't rewarded for breaking the law. We want a system that is more efficient, more effective, more rapid, that can bring the talents of people around the world, but we want to do it in a legal way. Now, the one other thing we want is to make sure that young people in Kenya have the opportunity to succeed in Kenya also. And obviously a huge problem for the continent of Africa is some of its best and brightest end up emigrating to the West because they can make more money there, or it's easier to get a decent education. We want to create a situation where people who want to succeed can stay in Kenya. Nairobi is as beautiful a spot as there is on earth, but if young people don't feel like they can move forward, if they're ambitious and they work hard, then they're going to end up leaving, and that makes everybody poor. Seize the moment, participate in this constitutional process, and 47 years later, hopefully both you and I and our children and our grandchildren can look back and say that Kenya really turned a corner and has started on a path of even greater prosperity and development.